Peace and blessings, y'all. Welcome to Speaking with Ajani Bakari Talk Show. I'm your host, Ajani Bakari. This is my YouTube channel. Thanks for joining me as we go live every Monday night to speak on three hot topics that I feel are necessary to talk about and that I want to bring up on my show. It's another great Monday night. Thank you for turning into my channel and tuning in. I appreciate everybody's love and support. As I try to go live every Monday night for y'all and give y'all the best content available out here on the social media platform. We'll be going live on my IG and Facebook shortly. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and mention the topics for tonight. So tonight's topic is we're going to discuss the Supreme Court ruling overturn of the New York state law regarding concealed weapons and gun carrying in the state of New York. And also, we're going to talk about Roe versus Wade, which is another overturned ruling by the Supreme Court over this past week, which has really caused a lot of controversy, especially the Roe versus Wade, which is about abortion, basically making abortion up to the state. But we'll talk about that. And then lastly, I want to discuss a topic that it's a little personal, and I wanted to at least get it out of the way, and we could talk about it, which is am I the only black person that doesn't use a wash rag when they shower? And we're gonna discuss that. We're gonna discuss why I don't use a wash rag, and we're gonna discuss the history of wash rags. So I hope somebody could come on and help me out with that. So thanks again for joining me as we always go live and do three hot topics. So those are the topics for today. It's going to be a good discussion because the Supreme Court ruling has really is a landmark decision. It's a mark in American history. So we're going to talk about that. And there's a lot of people who have a lot to say. So hopefully we can get some folks on and they can give me and chime in, and we can see what they have to say on that. But obviously before we go to my YouTube, to my Facebook and my IG, I usually have a topic for you guys on my YouTube, and I wanted to discuss that. Give you guys some feedback on my show and some recap actually on my show, because this is the 30th episode for Speaking with Ajani Bakari Talk Show. So I'm like I told you guys, I'm going for 100. I'm 30% in, but I just wanted to recap on some episodes and some topics that you guys can go back and get a chance to look up and see different discussions that were on my show. Starting back, I started this back in November last year. So the first topic that I brought up looks like was cancel culture. We all know cancel culture was prevalent in social media talk, with certain things you just can't say, you can't talk about. So that was something that was in there. And I brought up what happened to R&B. Relationship gurus, that was talking about Kevin Samuels, rest in peace, and all the shows that still are prevalent to this day. YouTube scholars, right? Everybody that sends you to YouTube. I also had a show where I interviewed Brother Hassan, who is a historian on African history, but mostly on Haitian history, and we discussed Haiti's history and the modern Haiti and what's lies for the future for Haiti. So that was a great interview. I appreciate the brother taking his time to doing the interview with me. You guys might want to check that one out. I also did a show on stocks and crypto for everybody who loves the stocks, cryptos, NFTs. We talked about that. We talked about parenting and discipline. I did a show on capitalism versus communism. So that was a good show. I had another show on interracial marriages and single parenthood. I got some good shows, man, and I'm glad that these topics were here. And that's the point of the show, because I wanted to bring up different topics. I wanted to be able to talk about different things. I don't want to keep saying the same stuff or talk about the same things over and over again. There's so much that goes on in the world. There's so much we can all learn from one another. So I figured, you know what? Every show we're gonna have three topics: one political, one entertaining, and one that would be personal, something towards something that I want to speak about. So I'm looking through here. There's there was the show about the Tender Swindler. I don't know if anybody knew about the Tender Swindler. That was a great show. I remember doing that one. I gave out my top 5 favorite MCs or my top 10 favorite MCs of all time. There was a Black History Month episode special. I made an episode talking about black income, right? We talked about the inflation, um, the jobs that would be threatened by AI technology. We talked about that. I talked about polygamy. Polygamy was also something that was brought up um, on my show. Um, Women's History Month. I had a show about Women's History Month, a tribute to women, which is going to be a discussion we talk about later. We're talking about abortion. Uh, Obviously, Will Smith and Chris Rock was a topic. Kevin Samuels episode. I did an episode for Kevin because he passed away, and um, so and the most recent ones we did one on gun reform, which we're gonna end up bringing up talking about that. I just did that a few weeks ago, and we did one a few weeks ago on pro-choice or pro-life, which all came ahead today. So yeah, man. So those are the shows and the type of topics that I like to bring up. You guys can share, subscribe, follow, let everybody know about the show. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to doing more with the show and trying to get myself involved with other folks. I'm still looking for a co-host, and that's still a possibility of finding one. And definitely broaden the show and so that you guys can speak, because again, the point of me of having my show is to have people come on and talk, and I want to hear other people's perspective other than mine's, and that's the point of the platform. So again, if you get a chance, go back and you can watch the shows. This will be the 30th episode. I appreciate everybody's support and love. For those that did support me and subscribe and view all the shows, and like I said, I'm going to continue to try to bring more material. So tonight's topics, we're going to definitely get into it. As I stated what I stated before about gun reform and what about pro-life and pro-choice, argument. So we're going to definitely get into that, and we're going to talk about wash rags, man, because I need to know some more about this wash rag thing, because I was never taught to use a wash rag, especially as a man. But we'll get to that. So I appreciate everybody showing love. Like I said, thanks again. It's all I can ask for. You know what I mean? I would like to have more viewers, but I got to get my content out there. So, but we're gonna get to the IG folks and the Facebook. So again, you can follow me on Facebook, which is Ajani Bakari on Facebook, and then you can follow me on my IG for the show. It's speaking_with_Ajani_Bakari. That's where you'll get clips from the show. I have my live clips on both of my Facebook and IG. You'll get live clips of the show. But of course, on my YouTube channel is the best place to get the best quality of Speaking with Ajani Bakari Talk Show. So you can get on my YouTube. For those that are on my YouTube, like I said, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So for our 30th show, we toast and we drink up for that. Yeah, man. It's a beautiful thing. And also, like I said, for those that don't know, I also do another talk show where we talk sports. Basically, I have another talk show called the GOAT James Kingdom Talk Show. That's with B. Lee and me, Ajani. And we do a show every Sunday, 12 noon Eastern time, where we discuss a variety of basketball talk, mostly predicated around basketball and the GOAT conversation. So we do that every Sunday. So if you're into sports, you're into basketball, if you're into the GOAT conversation, which is usually Michael Jordan versus LeBron, you're more than glad to join us there. You can always check us out there, subscribe, follow, comment, share, let everybody know about that page for those that follow me here and subscribe to my channel. As that one's also a lighthearted discussion when we discuss basketball, obviously. So thanks again. Like I said, everybody, it's always a blessing. Like I said, it's always a blessing to be able to reach out to people and talk to folks and say what's good. You know what I mean? So we about to get live on my Facebook and IG shortly here, right here. Let me set this all up. Ooh. Damn. Ooh, we got some crazy folks in our society. So, excuse me, folks, as I get myself situated here. Live officially on my IG. All right. Want to say what's good. Peace and blessings to everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Speaking with Ajani Bakari Talk Show. I'm your host, Ajani Bakari. We go live every Monday night on my YouTube channel. We also just officially went live on my IG. Peace to all my IG folks. Yo, what's good? What's good? I see you, brother. What's good, Ant? And then we also live on my Facebook. Thanks for joining me. As tonight's topics, we're going to discuss the Supreme Court overturning and ruling of the Roe versus Wade, which is basically saying abortion is left up to the states, and it's not a constitutional right for women to get an abortion. And then we're also going to discuss their overturn of the New York state law of concealed weapons and carrying a gun in the state of New York, in the city of New York, which they overturned, saying that is unconstitutional to say someone cannot carry a gun or have to have a special reason to carry a gun, which we'll break down here shortly. And then my last topic, which we're going to discuss, is: am I the only black person that doesn't use a wash rag when they shower or bathe? I know it's a little bit off the wall from the other topics, but again, we always bring up 3 different topics, and I wanted to discuss this because I seem to think that I'm the only one that doesn't use a wash rag, but we'll find out. And once we get everybody in, we'll definitely get the show started. So peace and love to everybody. What's good? Thanks for joining. Like I said, tonight's episode is my 30th episode. So you guys are here celebrating with me as we always keep this going. I'm going for 100. So we almost there, y'all. We almost there. Thank y'all for joining. For sure. We got to find this out. Man. I really want to know if I'm the only black person that doesn't use a wash rag, man. I want to know what I want to. What's good, Ashley? I see you, brother. What's good? Shit, I'm nasty and dirty. We know your ass is dirty. We know that for a fucking fact. Let me send this out to folks. Let them know I'm on. We going live every Monday night. Speaking with Ajani Bakari Talk Show. So again, folks, like I said, tonight's topics, we're going to discuss the Supreme Court. They did 2 major rulings this past week. They overturned the New York state law requiring special rights to carry your gun in New York, or a concealed weapon in New York. And then they overturned the Roe versus Wade, which is the constitutional right of women to be able to have an abortion. So it's about to get live, because we all know, pro-choice and pro-life conversation is a real deep conversation. I've been even my son got into it with me today. So, Kimberly, Buckmaster, what's up, Kev? What's good? Thanks for joining me. Thanks. Always love. So we definitely gotta let some folks know that I am here and I am doing my thing. Let's see. Oh, all right. And you're already talking shit. I see you. What's good? Dorian, thanks for joining me. So again, folks, thanks for coming in. This is Monday night, Speaking with Ajani Bakari Talk Show. I'm your host, Ajani Bakari. We got 3 good topics tonight. The first topic is basically it's a doubleheader. It's the Supreme Court overturning 2 major rulings in America. One was the New York state law about carrying a gun and concealed weapons in the state of New York. And then the Roe versus Wade, which was basically a overturning of the constitutional right for women to have an abortion. And that's a big thing. There's protests going on in America right now over it. So we definitely, we definitely got a conversation on our hand in the midst here. And then the last conversation is, am I the only black person that doesn't use a wash rag? And I'm going to explain why I don't use a wash rag and why I think you are nasty for using a wash rag. But we'll move on, from that. We'll get to that very shortly. Peace, Ingrid, Alpine in the house. Kev, Alpine. I got Alpine coming through. They be showing the brother love around here. We got Ant, Ashy. What's good? What's good? Mia. What's happening? Let's go. Dade County in the house. All right. So everybody's here. Let's go ahead and get to it, right? So the first thing I want to talk about is this gun law, right? Because, a couple of weeks ago, we had a show. We talked about gun reform or social reform, which was really the topic, right? Do we need a gun reform in America? Do we need to change the way, people are allowed to have guns in America? And I hinted to the idea that, every time we talk about this, the opposite seems to happen. It seems to get less gun laws, more guns are sold, more guns are put out in the hands of people. And the state of New York has had this. Basically, in the state of New York, you cannot carry a gun. You cannot have a gun on you outside of your home. I think it was in 2012, the Supreme Court ruled that they can't keep you from a gun in your home. That was unconstitutional, but they didn't rule out the idea that you can't have a gun in the streets. So if you live in New York, you can't carry a gun in the streets of New York, whether New York City. Anybody from New York City who's been in New York City know how serious it is. A weapons charge in New York is a serious crime. You get, I think, like 10, 15 years just for carrying a gun. It doesn't even have to be loaded. And for every bullet, I think it adds more years to you. So there's some serious, laws in New York about carrying a gun. The only way you can carry a gun in the state of New York is for what they call, quote unquote, special needs or a special request. So you have to be some kind of security guard or some kind of security team, some kind of law enforcement of some sort. Then you also have to have a valid reason, right? So let's just say you're not one of those, but if you're carrying money, right? Things of that nature. So it has to be a very, very specific special needs for you to be able to carry a gun in the state of New York. So the Supreme Court said, you know what, that's unconstitutional. You cannot restrict people. You must allow people to have some kind of permit or licensing to allow them to carry a gun in the state of New York. So now officially New York will have to throw that law out, and they will have to create some kind of law that allows people to carry a gun in the state of New York. It's about to get live in New York. I don't know if anybody, Ant's been in New York. I know you know some things about that. I got family in New York. I know people from New York, and the gun laws have always been serious. I think this is a law that existed in New York since 1913. So this is an old law. It's always been known. That's the whole thing about the stash box. You always get the stash box for different things. But in New York, they used to have stash box in their cars just to keep their guns, because you can't have a gun on you. It was like that. That was the thing with Biggie, right? Biggie's man took the gun charge for him because somebody had to take the gun charge. A gun charge in New York is serious. Plaxico Burress, right? The football player. He had a gun on him. He went to a nightclub in New York City. He was not supposed to have a gun on him. He shoots himself in the leg. He doesn't report it because he's not supposed to have a gun on him in the state of New York. So he goes to New Jersey, crosses to other state, and then it reports that he shot himself, and come to find out that no, he really shot himself in the club, and it became a big problem for him. I think he actually had a whole legal issue revolving around that. So New York is not one of those states where you can carry a gun. It's literally it was New York, and I believe there's some other states, Massachusetts, New Hampshire. I have the actual thing here. Let me see. Oh, Shine. Yes, you said it right. You said it right. And you said it, Shine. That was the issue with Shine, him having a gun. You're not supposed to have a gun on you. You can't be carrying a gun in the state of New York, no matter what. It was like, it doesn't matter if you're a felon or not a felon. No one's supposed to have a gun on them in the state of New York, especially in New York City. Definitely, gun laws are super strict. Exactly. Super strict. Let me see here. There's some other states here. I wrote them down. Let me pull them up for y'all. The other states that were strict, that are strict as New York, as far as their gun license, is Connecticut, California, Delaware, Hawaii, Maryland, Massachusetts, and New Jersey. So these are states that have similar laws requiring specific needs, special needs to carry a weapon or concealed weapons in those states. I'm from Florida, so in Florida it's the South. The South, guns, everybody got guns down here. And in Florida, if you actually have a concealed weapons in the state of Florida, your concealed weapons is actually valid in 37 other states. So that shows you how many other states allow people to carry guns. And other states, they allow you to actually have them open. You could open carry your weapon. So New York's about to change all of that. So everything's about to get real crazy in New York. But it's crazy because there's a lot of people in New York sitting in jail right now for gun possession. And they're doing some real time because they had a gun on them. They had bullets in the gun. So like all of that matters. New York was really, really strict about that. They do not play when it comes to their gun laws. But the Supreme Court has overruled that. And they're basically saying that it's the constitutional right of a New Yorker to have their gun on them. And they're gonna come down on that, and they're gonna make sure. Yep, that's why those rappers catch it. They catch it real quick. You're right. They catch so many charges. So many rappers in New York and so many people in New York got charges for possession. It's true. That's really true. I think those states you mentioned are called Commonwealth states. Well, I know Washington, right? Because Washington is not a state. Washington, D.C., I know Washington, D.C. is another state where you cannot carry a gun on you at all. It's illegal to have a gun in Washington. But Washington is not a part of the United States. It is like he would say, a Commonwealth of the United States. But all those other states are actual states. But those are just the state laws, right? States' rights, right? So now we're gonna get to that, right? Because the Supreme Court overturned that ruling and basically say that New York cannot, it is unconstitutional for the state of New York to prevent somebody from carrying a gun. But they turned around a few days later and passed another ruling overturning the Roe versus Wade, saying that it is not a constitutional right for women to have an abortion. And if it is up to the states to legalize abortion or not, which the Roe versus Wade that was what the Roe versus Wade was about. It was the Supreme Court ruling that it was the constitutional right for women, and it was unconstitutional to make abortion illegal, which abortion was illegal in over 40 states in 1973 when Roe versus Wade a decision was made. So since 1973, women were eligible to go get abortions done on their own, whether their doctor agreed for it or if they wanted to do it on their own. They had the choice. But since then, there's always been a beef. We talked about the pro-choice versus pro-life. So the pro-life people are saying that they don't want people having abortions, that abortion should be illegal, that it's a crime. You're killing a baby. You're killing a human being, especially for the states that allow you to have an abortion after 3 months. Because I believe that's when most people feel that that's when the baby is actually a baby, and it's not actually a human yet. I've had this discussion with my wife, and my son was involved. That was the discussion. Is a fetus considered a child? I'm pro-life by my moral standards, but by my political standards, I'm pro-choice. Even in general, by my own standards, I can't tell a woman whether she can have a child or not. Now, what I can tell women is that having a child doesn't start with an abortion clinic. It actually starts in the bed. So the real choice that you have as a woman is who and when you decide to have sex. But again, that's another topic. That's another discussion. It falls into this a little bit, but still, the idea is that women are now told they get pregnant, they will have to have the child, or they will have to find other ways to prevent pregnancies. But once you get pregnant, you're basically going to be left up to having this child. It's going to be illegal to have abortion because they're already stating that over 26 states are going to automatically make it illegal for women to have abortions. This ruling, Roe versus Wade, happened in Texas. It was a Texas young lady she was about 21 years old. Her name was Norma McCorvey. And the really crazy odd thing is that she's came out with a video later stating that she's never had an abortion and that she has 3 children and that she feels that she's actually was wrong for actually being a part of that. But it was all a part of the feminist movement of the 70s. Roe versus Wade was a big landmark decision. The United States finally stepped up and gave women something. Women finally got a chance to vote. Now they finally get a chance to actually control their bodies. It was the feminist movement. It was the freedom movement. And a lot of people feel like that was the downfall of America because women now could have more control over themselves. But where does this fall at for Black folk, right? Where do we come in with this, right? Because now we got pro-Black folks talking about this is a decision being made to save white lives because even though Black women are the highest percentage in abortion rates, Black women are not the most women that get abortion. The most women that get abortion are white women. White women get abortion more than anybody because there's more white people in this country. So just because 30% of the people are white women are the ones that get the abortion, that 30% is a larger number than the 35 to 30. I think it's 37% African American women get abortion at which is the rate for African American women. So, the notion is that they know that America is becoming brown, right? We have a lot of Hispanics taking over a lot of America. Hispanics are actually, I believe, now the second most in population in America, and they say by the time it gets to 2050 that Hispanics will actually be the number one populated demographics in this country. So white folks are nervous. We talked about this when we talked about the white supremacists and the idea of the replacement thing. So now they want their women to have babies, and that's the theory that the pro-Blacks are throwing out there. But it wasn't just too long ago. I remember pro-Blacks was saying how Planned Parenthood, and Kanye was even saying this, that Margaret Singer and all of these people were using abortions to kill millions of Black babies. And it's true, millions of Black babies have died in the hands of abortion. From the numbers, millions of Black women have gone and had abortions. So millions of Black children have not been brought into this earth because of abortions. But where do we stand at this? Because, where I find it odd is that the feminist movement found a way to use Black women into their activism and get them involved in their ways. And they got laws passed. And gay people seem to use Black women to get, certain laws passed. And they got Black women as allies. But what are we doing as the pro-Black community? You know what I'm saying? We still arguing. We got the gender war we talked about before. We arguing about Black women this and Black women that, single mother this, single mother that. Where does that lead us? How the hell we ain't gathering our Black women to do things for ourselves? We really be fucking up, But the idea is now that no more abortion because a lot of states are going to ban it, especially places in the South, like where I'm from, Florida, Texas, Alabama. All these Bible Belt, because again, it's a moral thing for them. It's their pro-life. It's funny. It's a moral thing to them when it comes to the baby being in the womb. But once that child comes out, they don't really care about the child that much. Welfare they're against. Child support they're against. All these other things they're against. But they want a woman to decide to have a child no matter what. She has to have that baby. And then there's the thought that, okay, well, this is the pro-life idea where you could always put the baby up for adoption. You could always, give the baby away. You don't necessarily have to, kill the baby in the womb. But then there's the people on the pro-choice side, which they do have a valid argument also. The things about those who have, because now you can get tests done and you can find out whether or not your baby will have some form of deformity or some form of disability or some abnormality, right? Or some kind of thing that would make it hard for that child to have a normal life. Does that person now have to continue to have that child, knowing that these will be the effects of the baby, of the child being born, or for those rare and true instances of people who are either assaulted sexually, incest, right? These are rare instances. We know it's rare because obviously these things don't get reported, right? We talked about this with the sexual assault month. A lot of sexual assaults victims don't actually report them being sexually assaulted. So we don't really know the numbers of how many people are born or how many children are born through these acts. But it is something we do know that happens. So for the women who wanted to have an abortion or because of such act, they're not going to be allowed to do that anymore. It's going to be very hard for women to get abortions now, and they're going to have to find other ways. And that's the pro-life argument also, is that, hey, listen, you should be worrying about not getting pregnant by not having sex as much. You really have a choice as a woman to not, not to be so sexually promiscuous. And so when you think about that, hold on. My bad. Lost my train of thought there right quick, try to fix my situation. But no, but when you really think about it, the idea of sex, right? We talked about this before. We have to have some accountability, right? We have to have accountability for men. If you're going to be out here busting nuts in women, and they're going to have your children, then you have to be responsible for your child. You have to be responsible for the children that you breed. And obviously, if women, you're out here having sex with random men, and you don't know if these men are capable or even willing to be responsible enough to be a father for the child that they might eventually put in you, then you should reconsider and hold some accountability for that. Abortion shouldn't be the automatic thing that you just want to go kill your kid. Now, again, that sounds like I'm pro-life more than pro-choice. I can't tell a woman what to do with her body, but my morals and my total being says, life, it deserves to have life. I'm pro-life in every aspect of me. I'm very cognizant of that. I'm very aware of that. I believe that life deserves to live, especially like for me. That's why I'm a proud father. To me, breeding life is not easy. It doesn't come simple. I know a lot of people think it is, but it's not. The conception of what happens during that time of an egg being conceived by the sperm is not just some random thing. It takes the right perfect time. It really does. And anybody who has children could tell you that, because every child that you have is different because of these different things. So again, I'm pro-life because of that. And another thing, the reason I can say I'm pro-life and feel comfortable with it, because like I told you, I believe in community. I believe in helping one another. I believe in helping single mothers. I don't really consider them single mothers, because if we really have a community, there's no such thing as a single parent. Again, it takes a village to raise a child. So I'm a strong believer in that. If you have any African sense in you, any ancestral spirit in you, you know that all children are your children. And I know some dudes will tell you you're a simp for that. To bring up that, that's what I was thinking about before the platform went off a little bit. There was a video that went viral today, or the last couple of days, where a girl called her child's father to feed her son, or their son. They have a son together, but she has 3 other children, and he only bought food. He bought McDonald's for just for his son. And she was completely upset and saying that he had no right to do that, and that she needed him, and that if he didn't give all of her kids food, that she wasn't going to let that one child have the McDonald's. That like she was not that's his siblings. He had to bring all of he basically had to feed other men children. And that's the whole premise. The way she was coming off was completely disrespectful, completely off. She was wrong for what she was doing. Now, was she wrong for asking? No, it's the way she acts. But she could have did a better job. But he wasn't wrong for turning her down. But would he have been wrong for actually doing what she asked, which was, can you feed all my kids today? Right? He could have did that. I mean, does he have any respect for her as a woman? That's what we talk about. He has a child with this woman, so you have to have something, bro. You can't be busting nuts in these women and have no kind of respect. It don't make no sense. So this is the thing that women have to deal with when you have, a decision like this being made. So now, how are we going to deal with this as a populace, right? Because you're going to have women having children, because women are not going to stop having sex. They're not going to close their legs. Men are not going to stop trying to have sex with women. So what are you going to have? You're going to have more babies. And another thing that was brought up about this that I was recently told was about, now this is kind of dangerous for Black women, because Black women are number one when it comes to mortality rate, when it comes to babies being born and during labor and child labor and bearing a child. So now with black women being forced to have children, it's gonna spike the amount of black women that are gonna probably die because they're giving birth or having labor. So it's a scary thing. But at the end of the day, this really has nothing to do with black people or anybody. This is pure white male, white supremacy, putting a stamp and basically telling white women, you belong to us again, and you're going to have our seeds because we need to have this women freedom, and this feminist movement is over with. It's done. Okay, it accomplished what it needed to accomplish. There is a gender war between blacks, and that's what the feminist movement was created for, to create a gender war between black Americans. They got the black female out of the ghettos and put the black male in jail and created a war that we're fighting still to this day. And they're done. They said that's it. It's over. It's a wrap. You're gonna breed our kids. You're gonna have our children. We don't care if other of black people are having kids. That's fine. We're already dealing with them. They already understand the game and how it needs to be played. Like I told you, they know it's a game of chess, not a game of checkers. So they understand how to move the pieces and what pieces need to be moved and what pieces can be sacrificed. But yeah, man, it's definitely a hot topic. But I got one question before we move on about Roe versus Wade and the idea of choice and the idea of pregnancy and sex. How come prostitutes don't have an issue with pregnancy if sex is what people are, making a big deal about, right? Because they're saying, control yourself with sex. It's sex is sex. So obviously people are saying if you're having sex, babies are going to be involved, which is true because sex is an act to procreate. Sex was made to have babies. It was made to have babies. That's why we have sex. That's why we have an urge for sex. It's an urge to keep living. It's a life. That's a part of life. But prostitutes don't have this problem, and they're the most. Their whole life is sex. They are sex workers, strippers, all this other stuff. They're obviously using some kind of contraceptive to keep themselves from getting pregnant, other than abortions. If I'm correct, an abortion is not a simple process for a woman to go through. So why are prostitutes not having pregnancy issues? I would love to know that. That's a great question to ask. But I don't think nobody here can answer that question. Yo, it's good. All right. So I see everybody here showing love. So before we move on, let me see here. The reason all right, Ashley asked, how do you know prostitutes are not having this issue? Because I don't really see too many prostitutes with a bunch of babies. I know there are single mother prostitutes. Don't get me wrong. There are mothers that go out there, but I don't know if it's an issue with pregnancy. All right, so put it like this. I want to know because now what people are saying is, which is a funny meme that I saw, was saying that now women are saying, well, since you can control my body and tell me that I can't, have an abortion, then I'm gonna stop having sex with men. And that's the idea, right? You have that choice. That's your choice. So you are completely in control of your pregnancy. This is what Kevin Samuels talked about. And I agree with that. I believe women control who they would want to get pregnant by or not. I believe women fuck multiple men, and out of those multiple men, there's only one or two that they would truly accept the pregnancy from. The others they wouldn't want to even have a child from. So women do have some sort of a choice on who they choose to be the father or who they choose to get pregnant by. So yeah, I don't know. Do prostitutes have that issue because they still work? Because you can't work being pregnant. I know that's there's some drug addict issues that we see that people are forced out there, but how many people out there paying to fuck a pregnant prostitute? I don't know. Like I said, who can answer that? Because prostitutes. Talking about prostitutes. All right. Let's talk about this. Let's get this out in the open. I am going to admit it. It is probably the most unpopular opinion I'm ever going to bring up on my show. I don't use a wash rag when I take a shower or wash myself. I do not. I really do not. And not only do I do not use a wash rag, I believe it's actually nasty if you do use a wash rag. Do you guys understand the amount of germs and bacteria that sits on a wash rag? Now, if you use a different wash rag every time you take a shower, then I would say that's all right. That's being clean. There's nothing wrong with that. But from what I understand and from what I be seeing, there's always a wash rag that sits up there, and there's multiple ones because my wife has multiple wash rags. It's not like she has one or two, but there's multiple ones. But she washes herself 3 or 4 times in a day. So does she use a different wash rag every time? She's never answered that question for me. But most people will tell you they don't. So, that is actually that again, the germs and the bacteria don't wash off on the rag. It stays on the rag. So you use it to wash off. That's the theory, right? That's what y'all say. You wash yourself, you use it all over, and now you wash out the rag and you think the germs left. No, it's an absorbent, it's a sponge. It actually absorbs it's a fiber. It's gonna hold on to your dead cells, all of that shit. Like it's a fucking nasty ass rag. That's what the fuck it is. And now you're gonna put it there and let it dry. And that's why it be all stiff sitting up there after you let it dry, because that's the bacteria, the dirt that's still on it. Take a clean rag, put water on it, and see what happens when you let it dry. It doesn't crisp up like that, like your wash rag be doing. So the idea that a wash rag is actually cleaner, I find it funny. It's really not, because I'm gonna tell you this. Jamie said it's not. It's not. You're right, Ashley. It's not. All right, I'm gonna tell you this. This is why I'm gonna tell you why the theory of wash rags being more hygienic is really bullshit. And I'm gonna tell you why. For one, how do you wash your hands? Do you use a wash rag to wash your hands? I know plenty of people who wash their hands, and your hands and your asshole is your two most filthiest and most dirtiest spots on your body. And from my understanding, you don't use a wash rag in either areas. So if you don't use a wash rag for the most dirtiest spots in your area, then what is a wash rag really made for? To clean. So if your hands are good enough to clean themselves and they're good enough to clean your ass, your hands are good enough to clean the rest of your body. That's what I do. I use my hands. I lather up the soap into my hands, and I use my hands and I scrub. I use my nails. I get down dirty. I scrub myself all the way down everywhere. I don't use the soap on my body. If I do use the soap on my body, I'll use it on my arms so that I can give me a good lather up on my arms. But I just lather up my hands and wash my hands and wash myself like that. That's what I basically do. Lather up, put the soap down, then grab it again after, wash up. And then when I'm done, I wash myself down real thoroughly with my hands. I use my hands to keep myself clean. Nothing's better than my hands. Nothing's going to get in more crevices and in more areas than my hands. So I don't know why y'all use wash rags. And I went to look up the history. Y'all know me. I look up the history. I always do. And if you look up the history of wash rags, it's nothing African about it. Now, granted, I do know we did teach the Europeans how to wash themselves, and we did use wash rags. I'm not saying that wash rags is something brand new, but it wasn't something that was that common because, like I said, people didn't just have rags sitting around for them to do that. You know what I mean? So it had to be certain societies, you had to reach a certain level of civilization to have a wash rag as an addition. It was more like a luxury, but it wasn't a necessity. But people think, I think the nasty part about not using a wash rag is the idea of the soap, right? Because when I was looking up the history of the wash rag and the washcloth, that was what it was for. You gave the washcloth to your guest so that they didn't use your soap on their skin. So they used the wash rag to wash themselves, and they used it to lather themselves, and that's how they washed themselves so that they wouldn't physically take in their soap and using it on their skin, which I kind of get because I don't want that's true. I don't want no stranger, because when I go to somebody's house to wash, I bring my own bar of soap. I don't never use somebody's soap. I use my own soap when I go to the hotels. If I'm out of town or if I rent a hotel, I bring my own soap. I don't use the hotel soap. I use my own soap, and I make sure it's made only for me. It's only touching my body or anyone in my household because they all came from me or I came in. Either way, they could use my soap. Everybody else, you can't use my damn soap. That's disgusting. You can't get your own damn soap. That's just me. You know what I'm saying? That's just me. I don't know about y'all. You can tell me about y'all if that's what y'all do. But to me, a wash rag is nasty. To use a wash rag is nasty. It's bacteria filled. It's germ filled. Unless you're using a different wash rag every time you wash yourself in the bathroom, I mean, in the bathtub, and then when you're showering, then I don't see how you're being hygienic or you're being more clean because you're just using a dirty rag the next time to clean yourself. Um, Even with the soap, it still sits there because you're scrubbing yourself. It always sits there. That's why it sits there and it gets all crusty and it sits old and disgusting looking. And people can make memes and fun of you for it. But y'all gonna make fun of me, which is fine. I've always been a man of my word and a man of my honor. And I stand behind mines, man. I stand behind mines like Draymond say. I don't use a wash rag because my hands are the best form of washing me. I've always been good. No one's ever told me I smell. No one's ever told me I stink, and I'm fortunate for that, and I'm glad for that because my grandmother taught me well, my mother taught me well, my father taught me well. They definitely were very 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 strict about how you presented yourself, how you looked, how you carry yourselves. So shower. It started in the shower. It started with washing yourself in the morning. So I give you this little thing. If your hands are good enough to wash the two most dirtiest parts of your body. Your hands are the most filthiest things. Your hands receive and touch the most germs, bacteria than any other part of your body, other than your asshole or in between your ass cheeks. All right. So those two areas, for some reason, y'all don't use wash rags to clean them, and you use your hands. Your hands are good enough to clean those areas. If your hands are good enough to clean those two areas, then your hands are good enough to clean the rest of your body with just lathering up with soap. But make sure you use soap because soap is important, and make sure you wash your entire body from your toes all the way up to your head. Wash your hair, wash your ears, get down and dirty, and get down to the everything. Get all the dirt off of you. Feel fresh, feel clean. It's nothing better in the world. So that's Ajani's take. That's Speaking with Ajani Bakari Talk Show, episode 30. Thanks again for joining me, y'all. Y'all have a beautiful Monday night. Y'all stay blessed. Y'all stay beautiful. I'll catch y'all next Monday night, or you can catch me next Sunday afternoon as we talk about basketball on GOAT James Kingdom. Y'all stay beautiful. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the comments, hit the like, share, follow on Facebook and on IG. It's Ajani Bakari. This is Speaking with Ajani Bakari Talk Show. Y'all stay beautiful and blessed, man. Thanks again for joining.